What's up, everybody? It's Nima here. Today I got a good show for you. We're gonna look at Saga Frontier 2 Remaster that Shadow dropped on the Nintendo Switch Direct, the first Nintendo Switch Direct, and we're gonna be talking about the physical copies of those Switch 1 games that have been upgraded to Switch 2. And unfortunately, though, we're gonna have to start off talking about tariffs, something that I'm already tired of, and I know we just started. But there might be some good news on that front. And I want to say before I get into this, with the economy and everything else, I do understand this is just a video game channel, and so we just like to focus it on that and not talk about anything else. But if you have lost a lot of money, and I know a lot of people are hurting right now, my heart goes out to you. My family alone has lost about $48,000 in the last 72 hours. My mom and dad lost like 20K. My wife's mom lost like 20K. My wife lost about 8K. So all of them in their 401Ks have all been worried about retirement and all of that. And then there's me. And I'm sitting there saying, hey, who's irresponsible and unprepared now? Because I had zero in my 401K. Looks like I was playing 4D chess there. I understand all this is like so heavy, and there's a lot of worry and uncertainty and pain, and I am no financial advisor in the slightest, obviously, but I do know that the stock market goes both ways, and so, just hopefully turn out okay and everyone will be doing good, but my heart's with you if you're having any problems. But anyway, let's get into the good side of what might be potentially on the horizon, as it does look like Vietnam and America are on track to have a tariff agreement that will be at 0%. Hopefully that's the case. If you didn't know, Vietnam is where most of Nintendo Switches are manufactured, as well as a lot of other stuff. But apparently President Trump and Leader Lam had a pretty good discussion. It was categorized as productive, and I'm sure that he understands there in Vietnam you gotta kiss the ring, show loyalty, and plead for zero tariffs, and hopefully we'll all be able to play Switch 2s at the low price of $450. And while we're talking about the Switch 2, let's talk about a brand new controversy. There was a lot of games that, well, I shouldn't say a lot of first-party Nintendo games that are getting Switch 2 upgrades, and they've got fancy new cases with their little red tops and whatever that I think kind of look weird, honestly. I like the wraparound. I don't know if you've seen them yet. I'll put a picture up here. Anyway, essentially, you can buy these physical copies of Switch 2 quote-unquote games. And really what they are is they're these Switch 1 games with an added bonus of whatever the upgrade is. It's all been different depending on what the game is. Like Kirby and Forgotten Land comes with a whole new adventure called the Star-Crossed World. Mario Jamboree has also like this completely new mode or game style. I think more of it has to do with the camera. But then like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom essentially just have access to an app, it looks like. I don't know, so it's all over the place. But the point is, people are upset because it looks like or sounds like that when you buy these upgraded versions, you only get a code. You're not even a key code, just an actual downloadable code. And the argument with that is, hey, if I decide to sell this or trade it in or purchase a used copy of one of these games, it's just functionally a Switch 1 game because you're gonna have to purchase the Switch 2 upgraded aspects of it. And a lot of people are speculating that, maybe actually they're going to use that new key code technology that they've been using, or that they were talking about using with the new Switch 2 games, or some of them anyway. Honestly, I don't know which way they're going to go with it, and I will definitely keep my eye on this story, although I gotta say, I don't really find it as egregious as some people do. Obviously, I'm bothered by the practice, but like every other console does that. I remember like the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One having similar issues to this when the Xbox One launched. Honestly, I can't remember the details on it, but anyway, moving on. Saga Frontier 2 Remastered. I finally got through the game and honestly enjoyed myself a little bit more than I think my review is going to show. There's just a number of conflicting things about it. But let's go ahead and get started with the story. So in this game, you play as two different characters that end up existing in the same era, in the same world, although they don't know each other or even know of each other. There is Gustav, the heir to the throne, and then you have Will, who is basically just a laborer. He worked in excavation, and if I'm being honest, his story is probably the most boring at the beginning, but maybe to me ends up being more important than Gustav, who I think Gustav has the most exciting story, and his is probably the easiest to play through, especially early on. They, like I said, they kind of meld together anyway, but early on, you really are playing as both of these characters separately, and Will, for me, his parts kind of dragged on, as where Gustav had a lot of combat, a lot of strife, a lot more drama. You see, as I said, Gustav is the heir to the throne, until there is a ceremony in which he's supposed to raise a sword called the Firebrand. Well, unfortunately, he didn't, and he couldn't get it to respond to any of the magic inside of him, and it's also known that he's not able to perform any spells. So the king, or his dad in this situation, basically disowned him. He's a really young when this happens, so his mother actually does go with him. They still have connections to more important people, if you will, but they sort of lived in the slums, and they're kind of just looked down on in a way. Now, his mother is highly regarded. People love her, but he is like such a black sheep that not only is he kind of just unremarkable, but he's also kind of a dick. Like, he does a lot, he's a bully, he causes a lot of problems, especially early on, which you could understand to a little bit. I mean, you're supposed to be a king at some point, your father disowns you, but he has a friend who follows him around everywhere, Flynn, and he's just so mean to this kid, and he really actually culminates into one of the best parts of the game for me, if you will, and that is just the story of Gustav. Watching his transformation pretty early on, in fact, you get a good sense of what happens and the community around him, but they were really only there because they really liked his mom and they were just trying to do what's best and help her out. But it's just a really cool aspect of the game, and you can see many of the story arcs like this. The only negative thing about the story is that it is at times kind of slow and the pacing's just a little bit off. Now, the combat, on the other hand, is good old-fashioned turn-based combat, but with a lot of different mechanics mixed in. And this is one thing I do really appreciate about it, is not only is it random battle, but it's the type where you can actually see the enemy and walk into him, so if you really don't want to have a battle, you can sort of avoid them. But what I like about what they do with the turn-based is that there's multiple strategies that you can implement and multiple mechanics that you can also implement as well. For one, just actions like combos, which are not presented to you, but you figure them out over time. Using different characters and their abilities, you can sometimes see that they build off of each other and create a combo, which is pretty cool. It's not something they actually introduce, and which is kind of annoying about the game, and I'm going to get to how that's a problem here in a little bit, but this is just one aspect of the mechanics that I think is really cool. Another one is the life point system. So you can use your life points for many things, namely healing, as one life point will give you a full HP, or you can 100% escape from a battle if you're just overwhelmed. But the problem is, if you run out of life points, you lose that character. They're gone. Permadeath. Which, if I'm honest, many times in the game, I just didn't use the life point system at all. Until later on, I got more comfortable with it, but you can easily replace your life points at ends just by staying there. And it's just one of the cool aspects of the combat of this game. That's not the only one. You can run into enemies and it'll give you the opportunity to just duel them at times, where you can just choose one-on-one duel. Now in these duels, you will get 4 actions that you can choose. Now if you happen to be using like a certain spell a lot or sword attacks or whatever, when the battle's over, that will be the thing that gets the most upgraded. So it's a pretty cool aspect, little trade-off that you get there. Also, at some point there is some like tactical combat, you know, grid-based, old-school strategy RPG battles in there. So they actually do have a lot into this. The problem is with the combat system is they don't tell you anything. If this is your first Saga Frontier game, it's gonna take a while to get used to the mechanics. Even I myself, this isn't my first, but it'd been so long since I remembered most of it, so I had to find a video that actually explained some of the mechanics, and this is just one of the many reoccurring issues with the game. There's a lot of cool things about the game, but then it'll be followed up by issues surrounding those cool things. You know, another example of this is the graphics. Like, the game, as far as the background, looks really good, and when you first start it up, it even looks like a lot of the characters themselves look nicely detailed. It's got this beautiful watercolor art style, but as you play and as you move on, you start to notice like the characters look really superimposed. Like, it looks like the background is fake. And it's definitely in certain areas. Sometimes I do a pretty good job of blending it, but it's still just kind of, at times, it's almost unsettling. Like, you literally can envision your character just walking nowhere, just on a loop, as they're just putting this background on the back of it, so that was kind of an issue. Like I said, watercolor, awesome, looks beautiful, but then they didn't do a good job with the blending. Music, at times I really like the music, but it's on a really short loop, so if you're in one area too long, the music just keeps looping. It's the same thing over and over, and it can be really frustrating, because usually when you're in the same area for a while, it's because you're stuck. Being stuck, by the way, is another issue I have with the game, and it is quite often. So all the NPCs are on like a track, and if you happen to get in the middle of this track, you can't move past the NPCs. Like, you'll just run into each other and you'll just be stuck in this spot, so you have to turn around and like go inside of a building or refresh the screen, by leaving the screen and then going back, and you can get around the NPCs. Honestly, that happens so often, and every time it sort of broke the immersion, and it's just really annoying. But now, as part of the compliment sandwich, I'll give it a good compliment, and that is, I really think the price is fantastic for this. I actually expected it to be in that $40 to $50 range, so the fact that it's $29, I think is a really good price for it. And most of my issues with the game could be overlooked if there was just a better tutorial system. If they had that in there, I think I would be okay with some of the other issues and I could overlook them. But I don't know, that's just my thoughts. If I was going to give it a number score, I would give it a 7 out of 10. And like I said, I enjoyed it more than that, but I just can't forgive some of that other stuff. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Have you played the game? Have you played the original one? Is this one you're thinking about picking up? What do you think about the other stories we covered, the Tariffs, the game thing, all of that annoying stuff? One last note, when I was getting ready to do this video, I realized I lost all of my video that I had recorded for Saga Frontier Remaster 2, so I'm going to end up having to use a trailer for a lot of it. I apologize, because I know that can be really annoying. It's just repeating the same thing, but I have no other real option. I might try to get a little bit of gameplay in, but it's not going to be good. But anyway, thank you guys for checking out the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. Love y'all. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.